Pay attention when I'm talking to you. Look at me. Do you understand the procedure, or are you just gonna sit there trembling like a coward?
You've got to be kidding me. This is who they expect me to fly with? Captain Rick Dalton's voice blasts through the quiet first-class cabin the moment Ariana Blake steps into the cockpit doorway. I swear, this airline must be running a charity program. What's next? Letting passengers' kids take the controls? Ariana freezes mid-stride, her overnight bag still slung on her shoulder. Dalton doesn't stop. He leans back in the captain's seat, arms crossed, loud enough for the passengers settling into row 1 to hear every word. "Look at this," he says, pointing at Ariana as if she's a defective piece of equipment. "They keep sending me these projects, like the cockpit is some kind of training daycare. It's unbelievable." Ariana steadies herself. "Captain Dalton, I'm assigned as your co-pilot for Flight 228. Assigned? He scoffs. Yeah, assigned by someone who thinks ticking boxes is more important than keeping a jet in the air. He pushes himself up from his seat, eyes narrowed, calculating, cruel. You know what your problem is? He sneers. You walk around like you've earned this uniform, when everybody here knows you're just the latest poster girl they're parading around to look modern. You think passengers want this? You think they want someone with your resume in the right seat? A couple in first-class exchange uncomfortable looks. Ariana keeps her voice controlled. Sir, I'm fully qualified. Rick laughs, loud, humiliating. Oh, I'm sure, he barks. Let me guess, top of your class at some program created to help people like you feel good about themselves? He waves a dismissive hand. Spare me. He steps closer, invading her space, lowering his voice but sharpening every word like a blade. This cockpit isn't a social experiment, and I don't care what brochure the airline puts you on next. You don't belong here, not next to me. Ariana's stomach twists, but her posture doesn't falter. Captain, this is a scheduled pairing. We need to begin pre-flight. He smirks. Oh, I'm beginning something, all right. He steps out into the galley, raises his voice for maximum audience impact. Hey folks, just a heads up. Looks like I'm being paired with someone who thinks a plane flies on good intentions and HR slogans. He gestures toward Ariana, loud enough the gate agent looks over in alarm. I'm not risking 200 souls because someone in management wants to look inclusive. Not happening. Not with me. Passengers' phones rise. Recording. A mother shields her son's ears. The gate agent hurries over. Captain, maybe we should discuss this privately. Oh no, Rick says. We're not doing anything privately. If this airline wants to sabotage its own flights, let the customer see it. He turns back to Ariana. You're not touching my cockpit. You want to play pilot? Try a simulator or a toy store. The humiliation lands like a blow. Ariana's pulse hammers, but her voice stays even. Gate agent, if the captain refuses to operate, we need operations involved. She's not staying on my aircraft, Rick interrupts. Remove her. Find me someone capable. Someone real. Ariana swallows the sting. No tears. Not here. Not in front of him. The gate agent escorts her toward the jetway as whispers and murmurs chase her steps. The recording phones feel like headlights trapping her in the open. Halfway up the jetway, Ariana stops. Her breath trembles. Then she remembers the verse her mother wrote on sticky notes before every big exam. Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you. She whispers it under her breath. The humiliation still burns, the injustice still cuts. But quitting? No, not today. Ariana straightens her shoulders, wipes one shaken breath from her lips, and steps into the terminal. Not defeated, but steadying for a fight she never expected to wage, a fight she refuses to lose. If you've ever been judged before anyone even knew your worth, then what happens next with Ariana and this crooked captain will make you furious and inspired at the same time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voives to follow every powerful moment of this journey. Ariana sits in the crew lounge, uniform still crisp but spirit bruised, as murmurs ripple around her. Nobody says anything directly, but every sideways glance feels like a whispered question. What did you do? Why did he blow up like that? The chief pilot on duty, Captain Linda Morales, approaches with a carefully neutral expression, the kind people use when they've already made up their minds. Ariana, come with me, she says. They walk into a small office that smells of stale coffee and laminated policies taped to the wall. Linda offers a tight smile. Rough morning, I hear. Ariana keeps her voice controlled. He refused to fly with me, publicly, with passengers recording. Linda winces. Yes, we heard about an incident. Captain Dalton has already filed his preliminary statement. The seat under Ariana stiffens. His statement? Yes, Linda says. He claims he had reasonable concern about cockpit compatibility, safety dynamics, communication rhythm, role clarity. Ariana feels heat rise, not anger, but disbelief. He told people I wasn't capable. He said I didn't belong anywhere near the cockpit. Linda sighs in a way that signals trouble. Look, Ariana, you're talented. People see your potential. But Rick has seniority, 30 years with the airline. That means something. Does seniority excuse behavior like that? Ariana asks quietly. It contextualizes it, Linda replies, choosing each word like stepping stones over a river of liability. He's old school, rough around the edges. He expects things a certain way. He humiliated me in front of passengers. Recording passengers, Linda corrects, which complicates things for the company. We need to assess the situation carefully. Ariana senses the shift, like turbulence building. What are you saying? She asks. For now, Linda says gently, you're temporarily reassigned from flight duty while we investigate the incident. Ariana's throat tightens. I'm being grounded? Just until everything calms down, Linda assures, hands up like she's soothing a nervous passenger. We want to avoid conflict in the cockpit. Emotions are high. Ariana forces her breath steady. So, he gets to keep flying? Linda hesitates. That's her answer. Rick's trips will continue, she finally says. Pulling a senior captain from rotation creates complications. There it is. The system speaking plainly. Rules for some, elasticity for others. Let me be very clear, Ariana says softly. I followed every protocol. I reported to the cockpit. I was ready. He refused me. And we've documented that, Linda replies quickly. Trust the process. Ariana studies her face. Linda doesn't want fairness. She wants the problem to disappear. And the passenger video? Ariana asks. We're aware of it, Linda says too fast. If it surfaces online, we'll issue a statement. But ideally, it won't. We prefer to handle these things internally. Internally, where things could be buried, where people like Rick have protection thicker than steel plating. Ariana looks down at her hands, steady, capable, trained, hands that have landed aircraft in crosswinds stronger than this moment. Finally, she stands. If you need a statement from me, I'll provide it. Linda nods. We'll reach out. Ariana leaves the office, feeling the walls of the airline shift around her, not collapsing but closing in. She sees the truth clearly now. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, and she will have to work twice as hard to fight it. As she steps outside, sunlight streaks through the terminal glass. She pauses, breathes, and vows silently, You will not bury me. Not today, not ever. The maintenance hangar is always colder than the rest of the airport. Metal echoes, concrete floors, and the faint smell of jet fuel hanging like a ghost in the rafters. Ariana steps inside with her badge clipped low, trying to look like she belongs here, even though she knows this isn't her usual domain. She needs answers, and she needs them away from the people who want her quiet. Her shoes tap lightly against the concrete as she navigates past tool carts and hydraulic lifts. A mechanic in a grease-stained jumpsuit looks up, young, nervous, and almost startled to see a pilot down here. His name tag reads Evan Grant. He hesitates, wiping his hands on a rag. You're First Officer Blake, right? Ariana forces a polite smile. Just Ariana for now. I'm grounded. His expression shifts, sympathy mixed with frustration. Yeah, everyone heard. Captain Dalton made sure it traveled fast. Ariana swallows the lingering sting of the morning humiliation, but she stays focused. Evan, can I ask you something? Privately? He glances around the hangar. Two mechanics work at the far end. A supervisor is on the phone, back turned. No one seems to be paying attention. Sure, he whispers. Follow me. They walk deeper into the hangar, past the idle engines and parts bins, until Evan stops beside a maintenance workstation tucked behind a partially open fuselage panel. The insulation inside looks like a dissected metallic beast. He lowers his voice. I shouldn't be talking to you, not because of you, because of him. Ariana doesn't need him to say the name. She hears it anyway. Dalton. Evan nods. People think he's just old school. Tough. But that isn't the whole picture. He leans closer, whispering. He cuts corners. A lot of them. Ariana's pulse quickens. What kind of corners? She asks. Evan motions to a stack of maintenance reports on the desk. Carbon copies of flight logs, handwritten notes, digital printouts. Fuel checks, cross-bleed tests, auxiliary power unit diagnostics. He signs off things we know weren't done right. Sometimes weren't done at all. Ariana's breath stalls. That's impossible, she says. Those are mandatory, documented, audited. Evan shakes his head. Not when a captain has been here for 30 years, not when supervisors are afraid of him, and not when the airline doesn't want to fight someone with that kind of seniority. Ariana steps closer. How long has this been happening? Evan swallows. Years. At least 4 since I've been here. Ariana's mind races. The system didn't just protect him, it depended on him. Seniority, loyalty, and silence tied together like an unbreakable knot. Why hasn't anyone reported it? She asks. Evan laughs under his breath, bitter and tired. Reported? To who? Management? They'd shut it down and talk about team unity and respecting hierarchy. You go to the union? They protect captains, not mechanics. Regulators? They don't see the real logs, Ariana. They see the polished ones. He flips a page of a logbook and taps a pen mark. See that? That's Dalton's handwriting. But this engine pressure check? I did it. He wasn't even in the hangar that morning. He signs things and walks. Ariana studies the page. Captain Dalton's signature stares back in arrogant blue ink. And you're telling me this is common? Evan nods. Too common. A wave of slow-burning anger fills Ariana's chest. She wasn't removed from the cockpit because she was unqualified. She was removed because the man who questioned her competence wasn't, even doing his own job safely. She takes a careful breath. Evan, if this is real, I need to verify it myself. He hesitates. This could blow back on me. Not if we're careful, Ariana says softly. But I need proof. Real proof. Not rumors. Evan glances around again, then turns to a locked metal cabinet. He unlocks it with a key clipped to his belt and pulls out a stack of archived flight discrepancy reports. The pages are wrinkled from rewrites, corrections, and lineouts. Here, he says, look at these aircraft from Dalton's last rotations. Ariana sifts through the papers. Fuel discrepancies, rear cabin pressure anomalies, repeated minor sensor faults, notes initialed by Evan but marked cleared by Dalton with no cross-referencing signatures. The patterns are subtle, consistent enough to be dangerous, but quiet enough to slip through bureaucratic cracks. She exhales slowly. Why would he do this? Evan's voice lowers. Because he knows he can. Because nobody stops him, and because the airline loves captains who cause fewer delays. Dalton keeps everything moving, even when it shouldn't. Ariana thinks of the scene in the cockpit, the mocking tone, the public degradation. He called her a risk to passengers, yet here he was, gambling with the safety of every flight he touched. Ariana sets the papers down, her hands steady. "I need copies," she says. "You want trouble," Evan whispers. "I want truth." Evan hesitates, then nods. "I'll help. But whatever you're planning, you're going to be fighting more than just him." Ariana knows Dalton isn't just a man. He's a structure, a hierarchy, a protected throne made of decades-old alliances. But for the first time since the humiliation, she feels something different rising inside her. Not just anger, purpose. "Evan," she says softly, "if I build this case, if I show the airline, the union, the regulators, hard evidence, he can't hide behind seniority anymore. Not if I'm thorough, not if I'm patient." Evan pauses, then offers a single, resolute nod. "I'll bring you whatever I can." Ariana gathers the initial papers, tucks them into her bag, and zips it shut with a quiet finality. "Thank you," she tells him. He glances toward the aircraft. "Be careful, Ariana. People like Dalton, they don't lose quietly." She turns toward the hangar doors, the sunlight glowing through their high windows. A cold wind rushes through as she steps out, sharp, bracing, cleansing. She came here looking for answers. She leaves carrying a mission. Dalton thought he'd ended her flight. He didn't know he'd ignited her investigation. The 11th floor conference room feels colder than the hangar. Glass walls, polished table, the kind of room designed for quiet decisions that ruin loud lives. Ariana stands at one end, uniform crisp, hat tucked under her arm. In her bag, printed maintenance logs, fuel reports, and 3 highlighted incident records connecting Captain Dalton to unsafe shortcuts. Across from her sit Linda Morales, chief pilot, Harold Briggs, HR director, and Tom Avery, safety and compliance. None look eager to be here. "First Officer Blake," Harold begins, neutral tone hiding the real message. "You're already losing." "We appreciate you coming in." Ariana nods. "I'm here to address the incident and the safety concerns." Linda leans forward. "Let's look at everything calmly. A lot happened this morning." Ariana keeps her voice steady. "What happened wasn't confusion. It was misconduct." She passes each of them a folder. "These are maintenance discrepancy logs, APU diagnostic records, and fuel load charts from Captain Dalton's last rotations." Tom flips the pages, first bored, then confused. "Where did you get these?" "From maintenance archives, and with help from a mechanic who has repeatedly worked Dalton's aircraft." Harold stiffens. "A mechanic? Whose name you won't disclose?" "Not yet," Ariana replies, "because the pattern stands regardless of who found it." Linda looks uneasy. "Ariana, these are serious allegations." "I'm aware." Ariana taps the first set of pages. "Right here, rapid turn fuel checks signed off too fast to be accurate. Here, sensor warnings cleared in paperwork, but flagged on every post-flight report. And this," she points, "a long-haul leg with fuel margins below what dispatch records show. Dalton signed off on all of it." Tom finally stops flipping pages. "If true, this could be problematic." "Problematic?" Ariana repeats softly. "A captain ignoring safety protocol is more than problematic." Harold interlocks his fingers. "First Officer Blake, be careful how you frame this. Fuel discrepancies can have many explanations. Different dispatch inputs, last-minute weight changes. And yet," Ariana interrupts, "every explanation always works in his favor." Silence. Before anyone can speak, the door opens. Captain Rick Dalton strides in without knocking. He looks immaculate. Silver hair, crisp uniform, polished shoes, and absolutely unapologetic. "Well," he says, settling into a chair. If someone's dragging my reputation through paperwork, I want to hear it. Tom sighs. Rick, this wasn't mandatory. Oh, please, Rick says. You think I'm going to sit out while she waves around binders pretending she understands aviation? Ariana's jaw tightens. This isn't about ego. It's about safety. Rick folds his arms. You wouldn't know safety if it bit your checklist. Enough, Linda warns. But Rick is warming up. You know what her problem is? She thinks rules are magic spells. Out there, he jabs a thumb toward the window. Experience saves lives, not ink. And I've saved more lives than she's flown. Landings. Ariana slides his copy of the folder toward him. He doesn't touch it. You repeatedly signed off maintenance checks you didn't supervise, she says, and fuel loads you didn't verify. Rick laughs. No, sweetheart. I signed off because crew told me it was fine. Delegation. You should try it sometime. Harold raises an eyebrow. She does have documentation, and I have 30 years of perfect records, Rick snaps. That trumps whatever scrapbook she's put together. Ariana turns to the others. You're letting him talk over evidence because he has seniority. No one is saying that, Tom mutters. You're thinking it, Ariana replies. Rick leans forward. Look, Blake, you're a decent rookie. You memorize manuals like scripture. Good for you. But you don't belong in this fight, and you certainly don't belong telling me how to run a plane. Ariana doesn't flinch. This isn't your plane. That sets him off. The hell it isn't. I've flown that bird for 15 years. I know every rattle and whisper of its engines. You just got here. He sits back, victorious, like he's proven gravity exists. Linda clears her throat, trying to lasso the meeting back to order. Here's the situation. We will review the documentation carefully, but we have to respect seniority protocols and union structure. And what about the video? Ariana asks. The one where he refused to fly with me and humiliated me in front of passengers? Linda answers carefully. We're aware of it, but releasing it publicly would harm the company. Harm the company, Ariana repeats. Not him, the company. Harold shifts uncomfortably. We'd prefer this be handled internally. Internally, Ariana echoes, where things can be buried. Rick gives a smug half-smile. Sweetheart, in aviation, some people climb, some people stall. Ariana stands. I followed procedure. I reported for duty. I was removed because he couldn't stand flying beside me. Rick shrugs. I refuse to risk my passengers with someone who isn't ready. Tom cuts in sharply. Rick, stop. No, Ariana says. Let him finish. Every word he says proves the problem. Linda exhales. Look, our recommendation for now is unchanged. Ariana, your reassignment from active flight status remains until safety completes a full review. She hears it like a slap. Grounded. Again. And Captain Dalton? Ariana asks. Rick will remain on duty, Harold says. Rick grins. Takes more than feelings to bench a captain. Ariana gathers her papers, slipping them into her bag. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't break. She doesn't let them see the fire she feels. Instead, she walks to the door, pausing only once. If you ignore this, she says quietly, then you aren't protecting the airline. You're gambling with lives. And when that gamble fails, these documents will be Exhibit A. Rick smirks. Careful, Blake. Pilots who make enemies don't last long. Ariana turns the handle. Neither, she says, do pilots who think they're invincible. She steps out. The door closes behind her with a soft, final click, like the end of one chapter and the ignition of another. They didn't believe her. They didn't want to. So she'll give them what they can't ignore. Not whispers, not warnings. Proof that speaks louder than seniority. If you have ever stood alone in a room where the truth was on your side but the power wasn't, Then what happens next with Ariana and this corrupt captain will make you hold your breath and clench your fists. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voice to follow every twist of this battle for justice. But while the boardroom tried to bury her, Ariana was already preparing something they couldn't cover up, proof strong enough to shake the airline from the inside out. The airport motel sits under the glow of a flickering neon vacancy sign, the kind of place pilots joke about but never intend to sleep in. Yet here Ariana is, rolling her suitcase across cracked pavement, the wheels stuttering like her own breath. Inside, the lobby smells faintly of old coffee and carpet cleaner. The clerk barely glances at her uniform before handing her a room key. No recognition, no welcome, just another displaced traveler. When Ariana steps into the room, its air feels stale and thin. Beige curtains, a sagging chair, a single dim lamp, the kind of place that absorbs people's worst days. She locks the door, lowers her bag, and stands still until the silence stops ringing in her ears. The humiliation from the cockpit still vibrates under her skin. Dalton's mocking voice, passengers recording, management's polite dismissal. Being grounded was one thing. Being treated like a threat was another. She slips off her blazer and lays it carefully over the chair, like handling something fragile. Then she empties her bag onto the table. Fuel logs, maintenance reports, incident records. Everything Evan helped her gather. The table becomes a battlefield of paper. Her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Evan Grant. It's Evan. You okay? Ariana exhales slowly. They kept me grounded. Dalton's still flying. Evan Grant. Not surprised. He's protected. Ariana. I need more than what we showed today. Something they can't twist. Evan Grant. I've got more logs. Call me when you're ready. She sets the phone aside and pulls the motel chair closer to the table. The lamp casts tired yellow light over the documents. Ariana sorts them into clusters, fuel discrepancies, falsified checks, repeated sensor warnings. Patterns emerge like bruises. But looking at the stacks of evidence only tightens the knot in her chest. How am I supposed to beat a man backed by seniority, union clout, and an airline? Afraid of accountability? She sits back, closes her eyes. A memory surfaces. Her mother at the kitchen table years ago, Bible open beside a stack of overdue bills. Baby, we don't get to pick every battle, but we don't run from the ones that pick us. Ariana reaches for her overnight bag and pulls out a small, worn Bible. The pages open easily to a verse she's read 100 times, underlined in her mother's handwriting. Let us run with endurance, the race that is set before us. Not speed, not instant justice, endurance. She lets the words settle her heartbeat before setting the Bible aside. Another buzz. A social media notification. Someone tagged her airline. She taps it open. A 20-second passenger video from the morning plays. Dalton's voice echoes from the cabin doorway. I'm not risking 200 lives to make the company look inclusive. She's not touching my cockpit. Passengers gasp. A mother shields her son. Someone mutters, "What the hell?" The clip ends abruptly. It already has thousands of views. Ariana's stomach drops. This could explode. Media backlash, union fury, management spin. She imagines posting her side of the story, naming Dalton, exposing the falsified logs. For a moment, she feels the temptation. Then she turns the phone face down. No, if she speaks now, without a solid case, they'll paint her as bitter, emotional, overreacting. They'll turn the issue into he said, she said, and Dalton will use his seniority like a shield. She won't give him that escape route. Instead, she opens her notebook to a fresh page titled Dalton, Pattern of Conduct. She lists public humiliation of coworker, refusal to operate scheduled flight, repeated shortcut maintenance sign-offs, fuel loads below safe minimums, cleared warnings not properly addressed. Then she writes a second heading. Witnesses Evan Grant, mechanic. Possibly other mechanics. Flight attendants from her flight passenger who posted the video. Anyone who saw inconsistencies on Dalton's flights. Her pen trembles slightly, but not from fear, from purpose. Her phone buzzes again. Evan Grant, one of the flight attendants wants to talk. She's done staying quiet. Ariana sits up straighter. Give her my number. No pressure, only if she chooses. Evan Grant. She already said yes. Moments later, a new text appears. This is Kira. I worked your flight. If you're standing up to Dalton, I want in. Ariana types carefully. Thank you. I'm building a factual case. No exaggeration, no drama, just truth. If you're comfortable meeting, we can talk through what you've seen. Kira. I've seen more than people think. He bullies crew, cuts corners. Someone has to stop him. Ariana's breath shudders, not from fear, relief. She's not alone, not anymore. For the first time since the humiliation, her shoulders loosen. She texts Evan again. Tomorrow, hangar level 3, bring only what's safe to share. Evan Grant, got it. And good job today. You didn't let him break you. Ariana allows the smallest smile. Not yet, she whispers to herself. Through the window, the rumble of a landing aircraft climbs into the room. Instinctively, she glances toward the sky, tracking the familiar approach path. She should be up there. Left seat or right seat. It doesn't matter. She belongs in the air. But she also knows something deeper now. If she doesn't fight here on the ground, the skies she loves won't be safe for anyone. She returns to the table and begins mapping a timeline. Dates, maintenance discrepancies, matching them with Dalton's flight rotations. She cross-references report numbers with the notes Evan gave her. She marks the days sensor warnings appeared but weren't followed up on. Piece by piece, the truth forms a structure. Not flashy, not emotional, solid. When she finally leans back, the motel clock reads 1:12 a.m. Her eyes burn, her back aches, her mind hums. But the fear that filled her earlier isn't as strong. In its place is something sturdier. Determination. She whispers the verse one more time, not because she's defeated, but because she's anchoring herself for the days ahead. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. She closes the notebook. Dalton thinks he's built an untouchable throne out of seniority and arrogance. But Ariana is building something he can't outfly. Evidence, witnesses, truth. And when it's ready, it won't just bruise him. It will ground him for good. The airport cafe hummed with the restless noise of travelers, rolling bags, clinking cups, muffled calls over the intercom. Ariana chose a corner table with a clear view of the taxiway. Planes drifted past the windows under morning light, engines humming like distant thunder. She traced one fingertip along the rim of her coffee cup, her notebook open beside her, pages filled with the groundwork of a battle no one imagined she'd dare to fight. Her phone buzzed. Kira, I'm here. Gray sweater. By the pastry case. Ariana looked up and spotted her. A young black woman with tired eyes, hair pulled into a tight bun, shoulders hunched like someone carrying too much for too long. Ariana waved her over. Kira approached cautiously, sliding into the seat across from her. Thanks for coming, Ariana said. I've wanted to say something for years, Kira replied, fingers tightening around her cup. But when you spoke up, I couldn't watch them silence you too. Ariana nodded gently. Whatever you're willing to share, anything, it helps. But only if you're comfortable. Kira inhaled shakily. Dalton talks down to everyone. But the way he talked to you, he wanted people to see it. That's what got me. He wanted witnesses. Ariana's pulse tightened. You've seen this behavior before. Kira nodded. Dozens of times. He told a new flight attendant last month that the cabin would be calmer if certain hires left their attitudes at home. We knew who he meant. He said I should Smile more so passengers don't think the airline is run by complaints. Another time, he told a nervous traveler, "Relax, sweetheart. I'm the only qualified one on this aircraft." He laughed. No one else did. "Did you report any of it?" Ariana asked. Kira let out a bitter laugh. "HR told me I might be misinterpreting his old-school humor. A supervisor said I was being too sensitive. After a while, you just... Stop wasting breath." Ariana wrote a quick note. "If you're willing, I'd like a statement. Nothing dramatic. Just what you saw and heard." "I have a private log in my phone," Kira whispered. "Dates, flight numbers, times. I kept track so I wouldn't feel crazy. I'll send it to you." Ariana exhaled. "Thank you." Before more could be said, a voice cut in softly. "You two look like you're hiding from the law." They both turned. Evan Grant stood by the table, messenger bag slung across his shoulder, still wearing the same worn hoodie and grease-stained hands from the night before. He dropped into the third chair without waiting for an invitation. "I brought what you asked for," he said, pulling a stack of organized folders from his bag, plus something extra. He spread the papers across the table, forming a mosaic of dates, numbers, gate logs, and maintenance reports. "These," he said, tapping the first pile, "are the fuel checks Dalton signed. Between pushback windows and gate times? Impossible. He couldn't have done them. Here, APU diagnostics he claimed to verify, but weren't actually addressed until a different crew took over. And this, sensor fault warnings, repeated, ignored, cleared with no proper follow-ups." Kira leaned in, eyes widening. "He flew with all of that?" Evan nodded grimly. "And management let him. They see a 30-year captain and assume reliability. They don't look deeper. Not unless someone forces their hand." Ariana highlighted entries as he spoke. "If this gets in front of regulators, it won't matter how many years he's flown." "True," Evan replied, "but they'll still paint you as the one trying to ruin him if it's only your voice." Ariana tapped the notebook. "That's why we're building more than one voice." Kira hesitated. "There's more. The passenger who posted the video from our flight? He messaged me back." "You contacted him?" Ariana asked. "I wanted to see if he was serious," Kira said. "He's furious about how you were treated. He said it wasn't the first time he'd seen Dalton act superior toward someone." She turned her phone to show the chat. "Passenger. I've flown with him 3 times. He talks to crew like he owns the sky. If the airline actually cares, I can share the longer clip. And 2 other short recordings from past flights." Ariana's breath caught. "Longer clip?" she asked. Kira nodded. "He was recording before you even stepped onto the jetway. It shows Dalton talking trash about quota hires while he checked the flight plan." Ariana closed her eyes briefly, not in pain, just steadying herself. "Can you connect us?" "I already told him someone from the company might reach out," Kira said. "He's waiting for you." Evan let out a low whistle. "Passenger corroboration, maintenance evidence, crew testimony. That's not a complaint. You're building a case." Ariana didn't smile, but her grip on the pen steadied. "Once we have statements from everyone," she said, "we meet with management again, but not in their comfortable office, not where they control the narrative." "Where then?" Evan asked. Ariana looked out the window at the parked aircraft gleaming on the tarmac. "There," she said. "In the hangar, on the aircraft. Let them stand next to the metal they're pretending to protect." Kira nodded slowly. "Make them face it in the place where their excuses sound small." "And we bring safety, HR, the union reps, the mechanic supervisor, and the passenger witness," Ariana continued. "When they hear the truth surrounded by the smell of fuel and hydraulic oil, they won't be able to hide behind polite phrases like differences in style." Evan watched her carefully. "You've already planned half of this." Ariana didn't deny it. "They told me to trust the process. I'm making sure the process isn't blind." Kira sipped her lukewarm coffee, gaze fixed on Ariana. "You don't act like someone who's just trying to get her job back." "Because I'm not," Ariana said. "I'm acting like someone who refuses to let a man who cuts corners decide the fate of hundreds of passengers and refuse to let him speak for the cockpit." For a moment, the table fell silent. The cafe noise faded behind the intensity of their shared purpose. Finally, Evan cleared his throat. "There's something else you should know. Dalton's been bragging lately, saying the airline would never touch him because he's flown every aircraft in the fleet and knows secrets they can't afford to lose." Ariana's jaw tightened. Arrogance is always loudest when it's weakest. "Maybe," Evan said, "but he's right about one thing. They won't pull him unless someone forces them." "They will," Ariana said softly. She set her palm on the stack of pages. "Because once this evidence lands in front of the regulator and the insurer, the airline won't have a choice." Kira looked at her closely. "You talk like someone who knows something we don't." Ariana didn't answer immediately. Her eyes drifted back toward the tarmac, toward one particular aircraft, tail number she knew by heart. It wasn't time to reveal everything yet, not until the moment it would matter most. She turned back to her allies. "Tomorrow," she said, "we meet again. I'll draft our statements tonight. Evan, bring the digital logs. Kira, send your notes, and I'll reach out to the passenger." "And then?" Kira asked. "Then," Ariana said, voice steady as a landing flare, "we walk into that hangar together." Evan smiled. "Ground truth meets ground crew." Kira nodded. "And we don't back down this time." Ariana closed her notebook and lifted her coffee cup, feeling the weight in her chest shift from isolation to purpose, from humiliation to momentum. Dalton had two weapons, his seniority and his arrogance. Ariana now had three: evidence, allies, and the truth. When she stood from the table, the two of them rose with her. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It wasn't a speech or a vow. It was something quieter, stronger, a shared understanding. This wasn't about one bad captain anymore. This was about the kind of skies they wanted to fly in. And together they were going to make sure the right people finally saw the storm Dalton had been hiding behind. The hangar was colder than usual, the kind of cold that made metal echo sharper and footsteps sound like decisions. Ariana stood beside tail number 4X973, the aircraft gleaming under harsh fluorescent lights. She rested one hand lightly against the fuselage, not for comfort, but as a reminder of what she was here to protect, and what, quietly, she owned. Soon the others arrived, Evan with his messenger bag, Kira clutching a folder like it was a shield, Derek Hall, the union rep she specifically requested. Behind them came the airline brass, Tom Avery from safety, Harold Briggs from HR, and Chief Pilot Linda Morales. Then came the heavy stride that announced itself before the man did, Captain Rick Dalton. He walked in with the smugness of someone who believed the world bent around his boots. "A hangar meeting?" he scoffed. "You really can't resist theatrics, can you?" Ariana didn't rise to the bait. "The hangar is where safety begins. That's why we're here," he smirked. "Oh, is this about safety again? Can't tell if you're trying to be a pilot or a preacher." Linda lifted a hand. "Let's keep this professional." "Professional?" Dalton laughed. "If we wanted professionalism, she wouldn't be here." Ariana opened her binder. "Let's begin." Everyone circled near the nose landing gear. Derek watched silently, Evan and Kira standing close enough to show support without stepping beyond their roles. "Thank you all," Ariana said. "This meeting concerns documented maintenance discrepancies, fuel irregularities, and repeated safety bypasses under Captain Dalton's command." Dalton made a show of stretching his neck. "Here we go." Evan stepped forward and distributed the photocopied logs Ariana compiled. Fuel load mismatches, rapid turn checks, completed impossibly fast, APU warnings that should have grounded the aircraft, all signed by Dalton. Tom studied a page, brow furrowing. These timestamps don't align with ground crew operations. That's because he didn't do them, Evans said. Ask any mechanic who's had his routes. Dalton snapped. You're a wrench, not a pilot. Stay out of this. I stay where safety is, Evans shot back. Kira interjected quietly but firmly. And abuse of authority is part of safety, too. Dalton turned to her with venom. Ah, so the flight attendant with a tone wants to weigh in. Sweetheart, you're here to pass pretzels, not policy. Kira flinched but held her ground. I'm here because you humiliated passengers and crew, and we all let you get away with it. Ariana lifted a hand. Let's stay on track. She opened another folder. This includes the passenger video. Dalton rolled his eyes dramatically. That 20-second clip? Please, context matters. A voice cut through the hangar. Good thing I brought the context. Everyone turned. A man in his 50s with a travel backpack approached. Marcus Heath, frequent flyer and reluctant witness. He gave Ariana a respectful nod and held up his phone. I filmed everything, he said. Not just the part the internet saw. Dalton stiffened. You shouldn't even be here. Tom motioned for the phone. Let's see it. Marcus tapped play. The hangar filled with the sound of Dalton's voice as the video footage showed the cabin from earlier that week. I'm not risking 200 lives just to make the airline look inclusive. Then came the part no one else had heard publicly. These modern hires think they can prove something. God help us if they ever take over the cockpit. The recording ended with passengers murmuring and a woman whispering, That's crossing a line. Silence settled over the group. Harold's voice cracked first. Rick, this violates multiple conduct standards. Conduct? Dalton exploded. I was protecting the aircraft, protecting passengers. No, Ariana said. You were protecting your ego. Dalton turned on her. You're trying to destroy my career because you're upset I refuse to fly with you. Ariana met his glare evenly. I'm trying to stop a captain who cuts safety corners. Tom lifted the logs. These reports are concerning if verified. Oh, shut up, Dalton barked. You've never flown anything more complicated than Excel spreadsheets. You idiots have no idea what real pilots deal with. Derek, the union rep, spoke up for the first time. Rick, this is bigger than seniority. Safety violations and recorded misconduct. Our union can't shield you from that. Dalton's face reddened. You're all insane. I am this airline. I've flown every jet in this fleet. Hell, I practically own this cockpit. Ariana let the words hang. Then she stepped forward. Funny you say that, she said softly. Dalton laughed. Oh, what now? Another dramatic speech? Ariana pulled out a single document, clean, crisp, signed years ago. This aircraft, she said, touching the fuselage, belongs partially to an investment group. They quietly own several planes in this fleet. She unfolded the page, and I'm one of the silent partners. A stunned beat. Evan's eyes widened. Kira gasped. Tom blinked like he misread the lines. Linda inhaled sharply. Harold whispered, This can't be real. Derek inspected the documents. It's legitimate, he confirmed. Tail number matches, ownership shares, all valid. Dalton stared at Ariana, speechless. I never used that authority, she said. Not once, because owning a plane doesn't give you character or integrity. Dalton sputtered. You can't. This is a stunt. No, Tom said quietly. This is leverage. Ariana turned to him. As part owner of this aircraft, I request that Captain Dalton be removed from all rotations involving it until a full investigation is complete. Dalton lunged half a step toward her. Derek intercepted him. You can't do this, Dalton shouted. You don't have the authority. Ariana stepped closer, voice calm but cutting as steel. Authority isn't something you shout, Rick. It's something you earn, and you lost yours the moment you chose arrogance over safety. Tom nodded slowly. Operationally, we have no choice. Rick, we're grounding you pending review. Linda exhaled. It's the only responsible decision. Harold added, HR will formalize the paperwork immediately. Dalton looked around at the faces, some stern, some tired, none defending him. You're all traitors, he hissed. I carried this airline for decades. I deserve respect. Ariana held his gaze. Respect is earned, she said, and you stopped earning it a long time ago. Dalton stepped back, defeated in a way he'd never experienced. His shoulders sagged, his anger evaporated into something smaller, something hollow. You think you've won? He said bitterly. Ariana didn't answer. She didn't need to. Tom motioned to security waiting near the hangar doors, not to arrest him, just to escort him out, so the airline could review his behavior formally. Dalton took a final look at the aircraft he once claimed to own, then turned and walked toward the exit. No swagger, no arrogance, just footsteps echoing like they belonged to someone else. When the doors closed, silence settled around the group. Evan stepped closer to Ariana. You okay? She nodded once, slow and steady. Better than I've been in days. Kira offered a soft smile. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for all of us. Tom approached, expression conflicted yet respectful. Ariana, whatever happens next, the airline owes you an apology. And more than that, a seat in any cockpit you want. Linda placed a hand on Ariana's shoulder. You just changed this airline. Ariana looked up at tail number 4X973, the aircraft glinting like truth under the hangar lights. No, she said. We changed it. Together. The concrete vibrated again as another jet taxied outside, its engines roaring not as noise, but as promise. Ariana closed her eyes for a breath, not triumphant, not vindictive, just certain. The sky would be hers again, and this time completely on her terms. The morning sun spilled across the airport like soft gold, bright enough to warm the cold concrete, but not loud enough to drown the quiet pride in Ariana's chest. She walked through the crew terminal with a steadiness she hadn't felt in weeks. Chin lifted, stride confident, every step echoing the truth she'd fought to bring into the light. Whispers followed her. Not the old kind. Doubtful, dismissive, suspicious. These were different. That's her. She stood up to Dalton. She saved us. She owns one of the jets. She didn't need the recognition, but she accepted the respect. At gate C-14, a new flight crew waited. Faces she didn't know. Yet every one of them straightened when she approached. A young Latina first officer, Marisol Vega, offered a courageous smile. Captain Blake. It's an honor. Ariana blinked. Captain? Tom Avery had told her the night before. In a quiet message she reread 3 times to believe. Her seniority was reinstated. Her record cleared. Her promotion, previously stalled, approved. Effective immediately. Captain, Ariana corrected gently, is just a title. You and I are both here to fly safely. That's all that matters. Marisol nodded, grateful, steady. Kira appeared next, in uniform, eyes bright. She lifted a small stack of printed pages, fresh copies of her testimony. Everything's in my official statement. HR already signed the receipt. Thank you, Ariana whispered. For the first time, Kira replied, I don't feel small walking into work. Evan emerged from the jet bridge in safety vest and gloves. This one's ready for takeoff, he said, tapping the fuselage. Checklist verified. Fuel margins perfect. No shortcuts. Ariana smiled. You're a good mechanic, Evan. Nah, he shrugged. Just finally getting to do the job without someone breathing arrogance down my neck. They all stood there. Pilot, co-pilot, flight attendant, mechanic. A tiny coalition forged in truth. A reminder that the sky didn't belong to seniority or ego, but to everyone willing to carry its weight with integrity. Tom Avery approached next, holding a thin folder. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Ariana, the investigation is officially open. Dalton's grounded pending review of full evidence. His union is cooperating. The regulators, well, they asked how he lasted this long. Ariana didn't gloat. She simply nodded. It wasn't just about me, she said. It was about safety. Tom exhaled, a hint of shame in his eyes. We should have listened sooner. Then listen now, she said, to the next person who speaks up. And the next one. He nodded. A jet taxied past outside, engines humming like a familiar heartbeat. Ariana looked toward the cockpit door of her aircraft in more ways than one. Walking down the jet bridge felt different today. Not triumphant, not vindictive, just right. Each step settled into place like a chain finally aligned. In the cockpit, metal gleamed under morning light. Screens flashed awake as systems powered up. Ariana ran her fingers over the controls, reverent, grateful. Her mother's voice brushed through her thoughts, not memory but presence. Endurance gets you to the door. Courage takes you through it. Marisol entered the cockpit behind her. Ready to pre-flight, Captain? Ariana smiled softly. Let's fly. She reached up, touching the overhead panel, murmuring the verse she'd carried since childhood, the one that guided her through humiliation, through the motel nights, through truth-telling that nearly cost her everything. Thanks be to God, who gives us the victory. She didn't say it loudly, but the cockpit heard. And for the first time in a long time, the sky felt open. When the engine started and the aircraft vibrated with life, Ariana Blake breathed deeply, her heart rising with the hum of power around her. This wasn't just a flight, or a promotion, or a victory. It was a beginning, a new flight plan, one she wrote with truth instead of fear. And this time, she wasn't just taking off. She was carrying others with her. If you've ever been pushed down, overlooked, or told you don't belong, Ariana's journey proves something powerful. One voice, backed by truth, can shake an entire system. What happens when courage stands up to arrogance? When integrity outlasts intimidation? The sky changes. The culture changes. People change. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices for more powerful narratives that honor strength, dignity, and justice. Stories that remind us what happens when we rise anyway. True power isn't loud. It isn't cruel. It isn't built on seniority or ego. It's built on character, truth, and the willingness to stand even when standing hurts. Ariana won not because she owned the aircraft, but because she refused to let fear own her. When systems protect the wrong people, courage becomes the only way to realign the truth. This story hit deeply. What Ariana faced is what many face in real life. Systems that reward arrogance and silence integrity. But what moved me was how she didn't win through revenge. She won through facts, patience, community, and quiet, unstoppable conviction. In a world full of loud villains, Ariana represents the kind of leader we desperately need. Strong without cruelty, assertive without ego, victorious without stepping on others. Her story isn't just fiction, it's a blueprint for justice.